This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives?
Ex-Green Beret speaks out on Vegas explosion suspect. The recent explosion involving a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas has raised many unsettling questions, not just about the event itself, but also about the man behind it. Matthew Leibelsberger, a decorated Green Beret and respected member of the military community, Leibelsberger's actions shocked those who knew him. As investigators piece together his motives, a picture of a man grappling with deep internal conflicts emerges. What could have driven someone with such a storied history of service and discipline to orchestrate such a spectacle? Let's unravel this troubling story.
Yeah, it took about 36 hours, honestly, about a day and a half into it, when more photos started emerging as to what he looked like in some photos from earlier in his life, 10 years, 15 years ago when I knew him, before I was able to put it together. And I was just flabbergasted. I was left speechless. I couldn't believe it because I really enjoyed the time that I got to spend with him. And I found him to be incredibly competent and talented as a special forces operator. And man, I was floored, to be honest. I didn't know what to do or say.
Anything, and I realize you obviously you didn't stay in touch with him over the years, but anything that you remember particularly about his personality that strikes you as particularly kind of hard to wrap your brain around?
Yeah, Charlie, start to finish, categorically, the guy was a great dude. He was fit. He was a good shooter. He was a good communicator. There's 5-6 events that we did in this rally competition show, mostly based around soldier skills, and in every instance he was seemingly a great person. None of this checks out. On the Special Forces side, he was first a Special Forces communications sergeant, and then an intelligence sergeant, and then ultimately an 18 Zulu. So he went through kind of every single one of the checks and balances. He was a talented Green Beret, and sounds like everybody liked to work with him. So none of this makes sense, and it's so heartbreaking. I truly hope that this is a wake-up call for service members to make sure that we're checking in with each other right now. But it's so heart-wrenching.
Tim Kennedy, a former Green Beret and acquaintance of Leibelsberger, expressed disbelief upon recognizing the suspect's name and face. Leibelsberger had been admired for his abilities and composure during their time together, which makes the narrative of his decline even more jarring. Kennedy's remarks highlight the paradox of a man who once embodied excellence but later succumbed to inner demons.
They say ultimately, this appears to be a tragic case of suicide involving a highly decorated combat veteran who was struggling with PTSD and other family issues or personal grievances. They believe he shot himself in the head while inside of the Cybertruck. Today on Fox and Friends, an Army Ranger who knew Leibelsberger shared his thought on this tragic situation.
The guy was a great dude. He was fit. He was a good shooter. He was a good communicator. So heartbreaking. I truly hope that this is a wake-up call for service members to make sure that we're checking in with each other right now.
Even though authorities say Leibelsberger blew up the Cybertruck in front of Trump's hotel in Las Vegas, they do not believe he had any animosity toward the president-elect based off of their investigation. They say they found notes on one of his cell phones that was found inside of the Cybertruck, giving some insight into his mind frame and a possible motive. During yesterday's press briefing, they read off some of his notes while updating the public on their investigation.
This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives?
Authorities provided a somber assessment of the situation. Leibelsberger, who had no prior criminal history or known extremist ties, appeared to have battled post-traumatic stress disorder and unresolved personal struggles. This revelation underscores the often hidden challenges faced by veterans, even those who have achieved remarkable professional success.
Investigation involving the FBI, the ATF, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and these folks worked through the night and found a lot of stuff that is very useful for this investigation. As you look at this Cybertruck here, we had to transport this down to our fleet services so that we could really get through this thing. And I remind you that the subject inside wasn't able to be removed for a very long period of time because he was burnt beyond recognition. And so as we continue to move through this, I'm going to talk a little bit about about his identity and what we believe, but I would like to highlight a couple of things that the teams found inside of the Cybertruck that are useful to the investigation. And that, first and foremost, is a military identification. We also found a passport. We found a Desert Eagle 50 caliber semi-automatic pistol. And if you'll notice on a lot of these guns that we're going to talk about here, they're almost just burnt beyond recognition as well. There's a SLR model B30 semi-automatic firearm, a number of fireworks that were still in the vehicle that had to be removed. Notably, we found an iPhone and a smartwatch, and then several credit cards were also in the name of our subject.
The investigation revealed a troubling cache of weapons and explosives inside the Cybertruck. While Leibelsberger's intentions were articulated in his notes, the physical evidence painted a picture of meticulous planning and execution. This calculated approach adds a chilling dimension to the case.
We tracked his movements through the Tesla charging stations to Monument, Colorado on December 30th. On the 31st of December, the truck was charged in Trinidad, Colorado, Las Vegas, New Mexico, and Albuquerque and Gallup, New Mexico. On January 1st, the truck was charged in Holbrook, Flagstaff, and Kingman, Arizona. We last tracked the truck in Kingman at 05:33 yesterday morning. The truck was first spotted in Las Vegas at 7:29 a.m. yesterday. And Carlos will pull up a picture of the truck pulling onto Fashion Show Drive here. And that picture was observed at about 7:34 a.m. We know that he pulled into the Trump Valet, and I believe we have a video of that. You can see the Cybertruck highlighted there. So through extensive surveillance video, we were able to track him leaving there, and we know that he went to several different places along Las Vegas Boulevard, and he spent some time in a parking lot of a business near Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard. We didn't have a video of the truck pulling back onto Las Vegas Boulevard from the sands.
The meticulous tracking of Leibelsberger's journey highlights the level of coordination involved. This planning was not the work of a man acting on a whim, but rather someone who carefully orchestrated each step. The precision of his movements contrasts sharply with the chaos and destruction of the final act.
We believe the question is, was the gunshot self-inflicted? And we do believe it was, since he was the only person in the vehicle, and it occurred immediately prior to the vehicle blowing up. Back there, sir?
Yes, sir. Morgan Chesky, ABC News. With the evidence you've seen so far, are you comfortable now calling this a suicide mission?
The question is, am I comfortable calling it a suicide mission? I'm comfortable calling it a suicide with the bombing that occurred immediately thereafter. I'm not giving it any other labels.
The tragic conclusion to Leibelsberger's story is a grim reminder of the silent battles many face. His final actions speak to a profound despair, leaving those who knew him grappling with unanswered questions. As we piece together Matthew Leibelsberger's story, it's clear that this tragedy is not just about an explosion, but about the mental health struggles that often remain hidden in plain sight. The questions surrounding his actions remain, but the greater question is how we, as a society, can better support our veterans and prevent such incidents in the future. His story is a reminder that those who serve often carry invisible scars, and failing to address these wounds can have devastating consequences. Tim Kennedy's reflections are particularly haunting. What measures should be taken to ensure that veterans receive the support they need? How can we as a community better assist those who have sacrificed so much? Share your thoughts below.